Joining me today is New England College professor of political science, Dr. Wayne Lesperance, and we're here to talk everything Republican convention. So Wayne, the last thing in the everything Republican convention is some predictions. Who's going to be the vice president? And by the time this airs, right, we'll know whether you're right or wrong. We're going to still leave it in there. But who are the people who are going to be who are likely vice presidential?
Sure. I mean, the names we've heard, right? The obvious names are people like Chris Christie, potentially Sarah Palin, Newt Gingrich, Mike Pence from Indiana. There are positives and negatives with all of them. And again, conventional wisdom would say that Trump needs somebody who can help him navigate Washington. This is where he doesn't have any background. Somebody who could work the halls of Congress. So Newt Gingrich would look like a pretty good choice here, former Speaker of the House of Representatives. I don't think it will be Newt. I think it will be probably Mike Pence.
Okay, because if I'm just going to go on the record, that's my bet for his prediction.
Mike Pence?
Yeah, either both of us will be wrong or we'll both be right.
Feel better about this choice then. Yeah, so I think
or you should feel worse, maybe.
I think it will be Mike Pence.
The other candidates, the other people that you mentioned, will they be involved in the cabinet in any way?
Could be. I mean, they could certainly be. Chris Christie certainly would be somebody that might be in line for an attorney general position or even a chief of staff. Christie doesn't have really the opportunity to go back home to New Jersey. His numbers in New Jersey are pretty awful. So his future in politics there seem to be pretty limited. He's been a good, loyal foot soldier to Donald Trump since very early on after he got out. So it seems like there would be something for him. Not sure about Newt. I think Newt could play a number of roles. Just really depends on what Speaker Gingrich wants to do. But I think these folks around him, well, we're going to see a cabinet probably unlike one we've seen before. It won't be sort of the political insiders that you typically go to, and that can be a challenge because you want folks that know how to work the levers of Washington typically. But Trump may say, I want to do it a completely different way, and so we'll have to see.
Well, I mean, certainly if you look at what he's done all along, it's been very disruptive.
Right.
From the metaphor that the IT people use, it is new patterns of behavior.
Right.
And it's worked so far.
That's right. So let's see. I mean, I think there will be some shocking choices, surprising choices at least. And but I got to believe that those who know that how complex Washington can be. If you've got an agenda you want to move forward, you've got to know how to work Washington. You can't simply go up and tweet out your goals and have that all work out. So we'll see. I suspect there will be some inside Washington folks that are going to he's going to need. And it could be the vice presidential choice.
Will the House and the Senate stay in the Republican hands in this election, or will the down ballots waver because of Trump stumbling at the last minute or somewhere along the way?
I think the House will stay Republican. The House, the way the districts have been drawn, are done in a way to protect Republican seats. So I think the House will probably have a closer margin. But I think it will remain Republican. The Senate is, your guess is as good as mine. I think it's an absolute toss-up at this point. And if I were betting, I would say that that's going to flip to Democratic control. But I think it's too close to say at this point.
So if it does flip, it won't be a 61-39.
I don't think they'll have a supermajority, no.
So the way the Senate runs.
Right.
You basically have pretty much a stalemate.
Right, gridlock. The way we have. I mean, the difference obviously is in who organizes the agenda and who organizes the meetings and how they move forward. But in terms of getting things passed, it's going to be much harder to do, just like it is now.
Will Trump raise enough money to compete with Hillary?
Whether he raises it or he puts his own money in, I don't know. He's increasingly under pressure to do that. He is way behind in the money race. I don't know. I think that we're seeing polling data that has him competitive in a number of key states. So that's going to encourage donors to get in. But again, back to this idea that Republicans aren't really all rallying around him. Those are the folks that could bring the money guys, money women to the table. They're not doing it. So this is the challenge he faces. Trump's now leaning on the RNC to try to get them to help him raise money, which we never thought would happen. But usually the other way around. But Reince Priebus, the chair of the RNC, is now trying to find ways to get money to the campaign.
How much does a presidential candidate need to raise?
It's hard to say. And when George Bush ran, it was $20 million just to start, right? And that was considered huge money. I think we're going to have $1 billion race. I think between all the campaign spending from both sides of the aisle, you're going to see $1 billion spent. So you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, that's amazing. And we could do a whole show on politics and money in politics. But we're out of time right now. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, John.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts your life in our region. If you've got an idea or suggestion for a future show, please send me an email. And remember, please join us again next week at this same time for another edition of Capital Connections.